Up next on this special edition of Talk of the Town, the public administrator position is up for grabs for San Francisco County. I sit down with the candidates for the job to discuss how they feel they are qualified for the position and what they hope to see in the future of the county. Talk of the Town begins right now. Thank you for joining us on Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin. In studio with us today, we have two candidates running for Public Administrator of San Francisco County. I want to thank both Gary Matheny and Bryan for joining us this morning. And we drew before the show to decide who would go first, and Gary drew first, to go first rather. And Gary, can you kind of give us an idea of who you are?
Well, Dustin, first of all, I want to thank you and the radio and television for having us on air. I'm Gary Matheny. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for about 30 years. During that 30 years, I've represented people with disabilities in that whole realm of what you might call disability law, which would be like workers' comp, Social Security, Americans with Disabilities Act, guardianship, long-term disability. There's like 6 or 8 areas of law that basically are within the disability area of law, and I've been experienced in that for many years, representing injured workers and injured claimants to try and secure their benefits.
All right, Gary, thanks for joining us on the show this morning. Now, Dana, can you give us an idea of who you are?
Well, I've been a probate division clerk for over 26 years. Prior to that, I was a legal secretary and I prepared the documents. I serve the public daily. I take care of filings. I'm the gatekeeper for the judge. Anything that is filed goes through me first. It doesn't get on his desk until I look at it. I make sure the attorneys have met all the requirements per the statute. If anything's missing, I bring it to the judge's attention. I audit the settlements daily. I deal with people over the counter and take filings from them. So it's just basically talking on the phone, talking at the counter.
All right. Now, the next question I have for both of you is, how long have you guys lived in San Francisco County? Gary, we'll start with you.
I moved to St. Francis County in 1993. I'm a native-born St. Louis, and I was raised in North St. Louis County by the airport.
All right, and Dana?
I'm a lifelong resident of St. Francis County. My roots go way back with family here.
All right. Now, you both mentioned that you have a different realm of duties that you do on a daily basis. You're a lawyer and you work with the public in the court system. Let's start with you, Gary. Being a lawyer, how do you think that will help with the position of public administrator?
Well, I think it helps at a number of different levels. First of all, I've had the actual experience of representing people, injured people, disabled people, with a wide variety of disabilities, some of them work-related, some of them disease-related, all kinds of circumstances in life where essentially they've come to a position in life where they're injured or hurt or sick and they need the help of a lawyer. So I've represented people in a wide variety of areas in disability law. So I understand how the laws kind of mesh together. I also understand other areas of the law and how they apply to sick or injured people. Like, for instance, you may have a ward, somebody that would be subject to our duties as public administrator, that could get into other legal problems. Like, for instance, they may have a landlord-tenant issue, and as a public administrator, I'd be able to add some legal expertise to try and resolve the situation. Maybe they're a Social Security disability recipient, and Social Security says, we want to review your case. We're thinking about terminating your Social Security disability. I have the expertise to bring that to the table to help work through that. Or maybe, what if you just have a ward that's going to the doctor and he's a passenger in a car and there's an automobile accident and he's injured? I have the expertise to try and work through that.
Okay, and Dana?
Well, I have sat in on hundreds of guardianship and conservatorship cases. I work closely with the judge. I've sat in on numerous mental health and alcohol and drug abuse cases. I work with the public administrator on a daily basis with auditing their filings. I'm familiar with treatment plans, the depositions that a doctor has to file. I know the procedures, and I know what you need to file these petitions for guardianship for these individuals.
All right. When we come back with Talk of the Town, we'll dig more into the job responsibilities of the Public Administrator of San Francisco County. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin Kopp. Joining us in studio is Gary Matheny and Bryan. They are running for Public Administrator of San Francisco County. Our next question that we'll have, and we'll start with Dana on this one, describe the duties and responsibilities that you think go with this job.
Well, as a court clerk, you're familiar with all the procedures. I am very familiar with the probate code. I work under the judge. He depends on me to make sure that all requirements are met. I deal with the attorneys on a daily basis and the public administrator. So I'm very familiar of what is required, and that's basically it. I don't know how else to explain it to you.
All right. Now, Gary, what would you say your responsibilities would be if you were Public Administrator of San Francisco County?
Well, the primary responsibility is to you're charged with looking after the well-being of the wards. We got about 160 wards in this county, and that basically means that because of they don't have a loved one or somebody close to them, they're incapacitated, they need help, and the public administrator is charged with looking out for their well-doing. And basically, part of the duties is that you're sometimes bringing petitions to court for guardianship purposes. A petition is filed in the probate division. I've got experience handling guardianship cases. I've been appointed in the past to represent the respondent, who is the purported person that has the disability or the incapacity. I've been the petitioner, where I've represented family or other interested individuals to try and get guardianship. So I've kind of handled it through all phases within the legal perspective as far as prosecuting guardianship cases, and that's part of the responsibilities for public administrator, because you have to be open to what's going on in the public, get input from the public, because every once in a while you get a new case and you have to be able to recognize it, and then you have to be able to prosecute it through the system.
All right. Now, Dana, what makes you most qualified for the position?
Well, I have my experience of working in the probate division. I know, again, the probate code. I'm very familiar with the duties of the public administrator. I will be able to apply myself full-time to the individuals that need help. I will be able to visit them in their homes or in the facilities they reside. I will be available when called upon at any time. And I just believe I'm the most qualified. I think I have the most experience and know the ins and outs of what you have to do.
All right. Now, Gary, what would make you most qualified for the position?
Well, I would think first and foremost is that I've got experience actually representing people like this and caring for them in legal ways and sometimes in other legal ways, because if I can't necessarily help somebody legally, I've always tried to point them in a direction where they can get help. For instance, I've developed a relationship over the last couple of years with Life in Farmington, the Independent Living Center, and I've been able to act as an informal consultant on some of their legal questions and the like as it relates to their trying to help people. You know, part of the goal of the public administrator is to put into place this concept of least restrictive environment. And so one of the things that I would really want to do as a public administrator is find that spot where they're the happiest and the most independent, but still being taken care of within the meaning of the statute and human decency.
All right. Now, looking back, Dana, at the position that has been held so far with other people in that realm, how do you think it's gone?
You mean as far as Ken Rohr?
Yes. How do you think his job has done for the community?
I think he does an excellent job. From what I see, I don't have any problems with the documents he files, and the secretaries he has in his office he's had for years. They do a great job. I just feel that he's done a good job, except he has told me that he wished he had more time to visit his wards, that's something he couldn't do, because when you have 160 people to care for, it's difficult, one person, and you're getting phone calls from other facilities. You have your wards that are coming in to collect their little monthly spending allowance, doctors calling you and things like that. So it's not just being in the office, it's out in the public meetings, and I think Ken's done a wonderful job.
All right. What do you think, how it's gone so far?
Well, you know, I agree. I think that Ken has been the public administrator since the 1980s, if I'm not mistaken. It's been quite some time. And from what I can see, he's operated the office in a very professional and efficient manner. Ken also is a lawyer. And I think one of his predecessors was a gentleman named Westmeyer, who, my recollection, was a lawyer. So in some concept, the role of public administrator in this county has been held by lawyers. And I think that Ken brought a certain amount of expertise to it because he was a lawyer that helped him run a very efficient and professional office.
All right. We'll have more right after this. Welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin Kopp. Our next question, we'll start off with Mr. Matheny here. And my question is you're a lawyer, and you have expressed that being a lawyer would be the perfect ideal for this position. Why is that?
Well, you know, I think we bring a lot to the table as a practicing lawyer. And you got to remember, we're talking about a lawyer with about 30 years experience. And so I have heard and seen and experienced and handled a wide variety of types of cases that affect human lives. I unravel legal problems. I try and secure benefits for sick or injured people. And there is so many different areas of law that kind of like cascade against each other. And I think having a broader perspective is really helpful. Like, for instance, when we had the debate last week, we had a lengthy discussion over the Olmstead case, which is a U.S. Supreme Court case that really didn't touch upon probate law. It was the Americans with Disabilities Act, but it helped bring this concept into community-based treatment. In other words, if we can, if it's medically feasible, let's try and move these people out of institutions and into the community. And it works for everyone. It works for the individuals because they have a degree of independence and happiness. It gives them a chance to start learning how to mainstream back into the community. It saves the taxpayers money because if they're in a least restrictive environment versus a very restrictive environment, the least restrictive environments are less costly.
All right. Now, Dana, you have expressed that you disagree with an attorney being the best position or best person for this job. Why is that?
Well, you can't devote yourself full time to the public administrators' wards and protectees. I feel that you need to be available at any time that you're called, that something arises. Also, out of 114 counties across the state of Missouri, there's only 4 attorneys that are public administrators. 110 are people like me. You know, he will have to be in court at times, and he'll be in depositions, and I know it will be hard for him to work his schedule to be available. And I just feel that with my experience as a court clerk, knowing the court system, being familiar with the duties, that I would be available full time.
Now, Medicaid is a hot topic here in Missouri, and it has been for a while. What's your opinion on Medicaid?
Well, I think that Medicaid is a necessity. By golly, we live in a country where medical care is very expensive, and some people, either due to disability or extreme poverty, are unable to afford health insurance on their own. So I have absolutely no opposition to Medicaid. In fact, I've represented some of my clients on Medicaid appeals. In fact, within the last few months, I had a hearing at the Family Service Office in Park Hills with a hearing officer, with my client. We submitted some additional medical records to the hearing officer, and we won the appeal. So I was able to help my client get his Medicaid card, and therefore he could get himself in the hands of a surgeon and get the surgery that the doctors were recommending.
All right. What is your stance on Medicaid?
I think it's a good thing. These people that are disabled, they do not have funds. In fact, they have very limited funds. And most of it takes all of it for their care. So they need it, and it's important. And I hate it that there's been cuts in it, but as we know, that happens in government.
Right, and unfortunately that's happening more so now than it has been in the past, and hopefully things will start changing over. Another issue besides Medicaid is also disabilities. People with disabilities need assistance, and getting assistance is sometimes hard. How would you address that situation, Gary?
Well, I think over the years, what you develop is resources. You develop contacts and resources. I can't do it all. But I had developed resources over the years. For instance, a couple years ago, in wintertime, there was a family that showed up at my law office in an old beat-up van who had got kicked out of their house in the middle of wintertime, and there was like mom and dad and 3 small children. They had no money and nowhere to go. So I was able to use my resources and get a rental home for them over in Perry County to live in while I was unraveling their legal problems. For instance, I'm going to get back to Life, the independent living center on Karsh here in Farmington. They have tremendous resources available for the disabled people. So my vision is to bring in all the helpful resources and learn how to utilize them to the maximum so that the wards can have as free and independent life as possible.
Dana, how would you address the situation with disabilities?
Well, first of all, I think we need to explain the difference between disabilities under the probate code. When you're deemed disabled under the probate code, it means you are no longer to handle your finances or your property. It's not always just a physical disability. There are plenty of people out there that have physical and mental disabilities that are able to handle themselves. So, and there are many agencies out there that I'm sure I'm not aware of that can help in different ways. But a lot of the individuals that the public administrator takes care of are people who are severe mental illness, maybe dementia, things of that sort, more so than a physical disability.
All right. We'll have more when we come back. Welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin Cobb. Dano, we'll start with you on this next question. If you were elected, what would you like to see in the future?
Well, I believe that the public administrator could use a deputy public administrator to help with going to see their wards. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot of changes right now. I do know that there are charities out there that you can get, say your ward needs extensive dental work, and of course Medicaid's not going to pay for that. There are charities out there that can help with those type things. So that would be something I would want to explore, about getting more help for these wards that are on very limited income and need extra services.
Gary, if you were elected, what would you like to see in the future?
Well, you know, I've mentioned it before, and I have a deep, heartfelt desire for this concept of least restrictive environment, because, like for instance, I was involved in a case in Madison County recently where a few years ago this man, he was extreme bipolar, he was an alcoholic, both of them were kind of playing off of each other, his life spinning out of control. He wound up with a guardian, wound up in a nursing home. Well, a couple years down the road, he's not drinking, he's being medication managed, so to speak, and he's doing much better. And he is ready to take some steps to go from a nursing home to a residential care facility. Now, to me, like 5-10 years ago, I would think in terms of, well, you know, what difference does it make whether somebody's in a nursing home or a residential care facility? Because as long as they're being taken care of, that's what really matters. But to the individual themselves, it can make all the difference in the world, because let's just say, for instance, if you're in a nursing home and you want to go out, walk down the street to the convenience store and buy a soda, there's a lot of red tape associated with that. You just don't leave the nursing home. If you're in a residential care facility, most of those environments, you want to get out in the afternoon, walk down the street and buy a soda, you can do that. And a little small thing like that can mean the world of difference to somebody. That little degree of independence that we all take for granted can make the day for somebody that's incapacitated.
All right. Dana, have you had a lot of support behind your campaign?
Yes, I have. I have several attorneys that are supporting me in the county. I have all my family and friends, and even people that I don't know that have read my flyers and I've talked to, that tell me they wish me the best of luck and they're voting for me. And so I'm very confident. I've had a lot of donations, and I'm very thankful for that, and I'm thankful for all the people that have helped me with my campaign.
All right. Now, Gary, have you had a lot of backing behind your campaign?
Well, you know, one of the things that I've been most impressed with was the people receptivity. I am really impressed, and I'll give, you know, I'll tip my cap particularly to the middle part of the county, in Park Hills and Deloge, because I live in Farmington, and I needed to get up there and talk to those people and introduce myself. And the level of receptivity has been incredible. You can't hardly find somebody to be rude or insult you. They're also kind and they're also receptive. Now, not every person translates into a vote, but at least you feel like they're giving you the opportunity to make your case, and they appreciate you making your case because you're reaching out to them.
I have to agree with both of you that our community is probably top-notch compared to a lot of other communities in the state of Missouri, where a lot of support both behind you both and other entities across the county. So I commend you both for a good campaign on both parts, and I wish you both the best of luck. And when we come back, what we'll do is we'll get final words from Gary and Dano. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin Kopp, and we're talking to Gary Matheny and Bryan on their campaign of running for Public Administrator of San Francisco County. Now it's time for our favorite time of the show, final thoughts. Gary, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts?
Well, first of all, Dustin, I want to thank you and Dawkins broadcast group for letting us come on the air and share our thoughts about the public administrator's position. I'm happy to be here. I am happy to run for public administrator. I've got the time, I've got the dedication, I've got the work ethic, I've got the experience to bring everything together. all the resources together, all the help together to help the wards of this county. And like I said earlier, that concept of least restrictive environment has a reality inside of me. I will take that, that part of the law very seriously and try and implement it to the best of my ability.
All right. Now, Dana, it's your turn. What are your final thoughts about your campaign and everything that's been going on for you?
Well, I think that I have the experience, the dedication, the compassion, and the expertise, because probate isn't, you have to practice regularly. If you don't, you're not familiar with procedure. And I feel that I have the time to devote myself to these individuals. I am going to resign from my job that I have now to devote myself full-time. So I will always be accessible and available. And, you know, he talks of the least restrictive environment. I'm all for that too. But each case you have to look at individually. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. And I will check in to see if there's something else that could be done to help them along. If they do need an agency to get involved with their case, that's fine with me, as long as it's going to help my wards and protectees.
All right. I want to thank you both once again, and congratulations again on a wonderful campaign from both of you guys. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin.
We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Dustin Kopp. We want to again thank Gary Matheny and Bryan for joining us this morning for the position of San Francisco County Public Administrator that they're running for, and to talk about their campaign. We hope you all go out and vote on November 8th, not only for this election, but also the election for the United States. We again thank you for joining us. If you have a show idea, email us at talkofthetown@dawkinsbroadcastgroup.com. We'll see you next time.